Right, welcome to the new vid for the HRG YouTube channel. We are up in Castleford at the famous premises of engine data analysis. And we have two generations of engine experts with us today. We have Kenny Coleman, Ben Rushforth, the two sort of consecutive bosses of this operation. So if we can, Ken, I'm going to start with you. You said that EDA has been here since
1989.
And what were you doing before?
I was a garage mechanic originally, and then prior to opening this business, I ran a body shop in Leeds. So I was in the body shop game.
Body? Okay.
Yeah, it's a body shop, so which was Magnetic Motors in Leeds, so which was and is, I think, still quite a big body shop concern in Leeds. So I was involved in that.
So you life in the motor industry, I suppose.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I started as a garage mechanic and a truck mechanic,
Right.
and then started a body shop business with some partners, and I got opportunity to get out of it and got into this business.
So what led you to? Because I mean, have you always been sort of like a V8 American specialist?
Yeah, I suppose I was really. I ran V8 engines myself. You know, yeah. I started in drag racing, and that's how I got the start. Really, I was something I was interested in. I was sort of sick of the general garage game at that time, and specifically the body shop. Running a body shop isn't a particularly easy job. So I wanted to do something that I was interested in, and the only thing I thought I could make a living at was the engine building job. So that's how this business started, really.
So when did you get your start in drag racing?
1972.
It's still fairly early days.
Oh yeah,
1972.
Well, first start of drag racing was Black Bush.
Black Bush.
Yeah, so that was a long time ago, and I went with a bit of a well-known character in these parts, and most people know, like called Dave Grady.
Oh,
yeah.
Power.
Yeah. Well, you know, Dave was a childhood pal of mine. We were mods together in Leeds in the scooter days and all that sort of stuff. That was how I met Dave, long before the drag racing, and he got into drag racing, and he got me into drag racing. So it was probably all his fault. So
and ultimately my fault, or his fault is on me as well. You know, he got Dad involved.
He was such an enthusiastic character, and he got me into the drag racing. So that's how I got the start in drag racing.
What were you racing back then?
He was racing. I wasn't racing anything. He was racing a Holden Monaro GTS, which now are worth a fortune. They're sort of a Australian Shelby 500, aren't they? Something like that. So that was Dave, and he got us into that and American V8s, and it's been downhill ever since. You know, we got a start on that, and you know, it was something I was interested in, and then I started racing myself, and I started with cars that I started racing them, sort of various bits and pieces. Everybody else, street cars, and then I got another well-known old car, the Pumping Iron Viva, 100 years ago.
Right.
I owned that. And I owned that with a small block Chevy in. That got me a start, became a Chevy man with that. And then subsequent to that, I bought the old, what they call the Maverick,
Blue
Rose Maverick, which then became Wildman Maverick, which became the Stampede Maverick.
Right. Okay.
So that was another Chevy in a Ford, as it happened, but again, so that was another Chevy in that. So that was my start in drag racing, really. I ran a couple of street cars, Mach 1 Mustang, a Roadrunner, but that was my serious entry into drag racing, was the Maverick, and I ran that for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And then the police car, you might remember that, with the blown alcohol.
Rover Sterling.
Rover Sterling.
Yes, there's a picture of it up on
Yeah.
the race.
Yeah. That was that one, and that was the only claim to fame, I suppose, is that was the first blown alcohol car, door car in the UK.
Right, okay.
So at the time, everybody else was running nitrous and big inch engines, and we came from that point of view. So
we still do.
We still do. Blown alcohol engines, and we got a start on that with small block Chevy. It did very well. The engine went into another car belonging to Bernie Epworth, the late Bernie Epworth. That was in another Rover Sterling. What was Bernie?
Fastback Rover.
Fastback Rover went into that one.
Right,
and that ran quite well. Then we got involved running a blown alcohol car out in Malta for the Borg Brothers Maltese out there, which subsequently became the quickest small block in the world. The Americans don't acknowledge that, and it was the quickest small block. They've got a nitro car, but ours was a blown alcohol car, and that ran ultimately 5.7 out in Malta in a small block.
Far?
Yeah, how far?
Wow.
So that was another blown small block that came from EDA, and then subsequent to that, racing wise, what did we have? The dragster.
The dragster came after the.
Yeah, we had a dragster in Super Pro. Myself and Ian Tubb ran it through the EDA business, and that won the championship twice.
What year was this?
Can't tell you.
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had 3 seasons. We were runner up and championship twice, so we did quite well with that. And that was myself and Ian, and obviously with support from EDA, and we did all right with that.
So back in the days, like you say, when you started out, what was it like in terms of parts supply and specialists for American V8?
Well, I tell these lads, not at the moment, because things are difficult at the moment, but I got to tell you, the initial running American engines was a real pain, and to be fair, that's how I got into this business.
Because nobody else was doing it.
Because nobody else was doing it.
Right.
Well, no, that's not true. Nobody else was doing it. Everybody else was struggling.
Yeah.
And I thought there's certain areas, this dyno testing, balancing, specialist machine work. It was difficult getting that type of work done. So I thought, well, if everybody else is having problems getting this type of work done, then why don't I start and do it? And that's how I got into this job, really. It was because it was a difficult situation. But then people like, I suppose, Dave Powell of Performance Unlimited, he came on the scene. Yeah, Dave was going longer than us. Yeah. Dave was very good in this area. That made the parts availability much better. We started importing parts, which we still do. Ben's still doing that now. A lot. We started importing parts ourselves, and then we got into the specialist engine building work more and more. We didn't start off specifically in the drag racing field, really, even though I was a drag racer and it was the only racing I've ever done is drag racing. But I purposely went into other forms of racing, because at that time, 89, you probably won't even realise this, we're in the middle of a recession. I didn't know at the time, and you don't know, but you were in it. Yeah. And things were quite difficult and things. And I think at that time, there wasn't any top fuel cars in England, not one. That's how bad drag racing was. And, the smaller sportsman classes were starting to thrive in around then. The big number classes like top fuel and funny car, I don't think there was an active top fuel car at the time. Only 2 or 3 top alcohol cars. It was a bit of a lean time for the bigger classes, but it was a good time for the smaller classes. We think there. But I persevered or pursued stock car racing, circuit racing, historic racing subsequently, and then we got very much involved in historic circuit racing for 15-20 years of while I was here. We ran the business for 31. I ran the business for 31 years, for about 31 years, and the overwhelming proportion of that time was with historic circuit racing. Your Lawlers and your McLarens and Cobras and Mustangs and all that type of thing, with that GT40s and stuff, and we were quite successful with that.
And their rules are quite tight.
Yeah, they were tight, but it worked very well with the drag racing type rules, strange enough, where you were trying to make a lot of power out of relatively limited options. You had to stock type heads and this type of thing. So there was lots of opportunity to develop your drag racing skills through that type of circuit race works, where you just can't put the biggest engine in the world, you just can't buy a load of stuff, you can't do all of that. But subsequent to that, sort of almost by, I won't say default, but we got more and more drag racing, because I was involved in drag racing. I was dealing with drag racing people. People out of drag racing knew me, knew this business, and we were doing a lot of drag racing work for other drag races, you know, balancing, machining, boring, dyno testing. And we were working a lot on other drag race cars. And I think at one time we were probably dyno testing every bloody engine in the country just about, because we were, you know, people like Robert Ice and Peter Knight and Tim Adams and Performance Unlimited were all using our dyno testing facilities. So whilst we weren't specifically involved in all the drag racing work, we were getting a lot of drag racing work through the other people we were doing work for, balancing, machining, all that type of thing. And you know, and then we started, they were doing work for us, and then we were doing work for them, and they were doing work for us. So that's how it worked, you know. So we got into drag racing, I wouldn't say by default. It became apparent that there was a lot of drag racing work around out there, which there wasn't initially. When I first started here, there was relatively small amount of drag racing work. Most people in the late 80s were doing their own work, and they weren't using professional engine builders, whereas circuit race people, and to some extent stock car people, were always using professional engine builders. Drag racers were the overwhelming majority of drag racers, and I think even now, the overwhelming majority of drag racers still do their own engines. So there was a bigger market for a professional engine builder for in other forms of motorsporting, not specifically drag racing, but that has changed. That has definitely changed now. I would say, Ben will be able to tell you this, but I would say Ben's work now probably consists of probably 50 or 60% of drag racing work.
I was thinking, yeah, certainly 50%.
Yeah, whereas before I would say it was 25% of working, building engines for drag racers, whereas 95% of circuit racing, certainly historics, they don't build their own engines. None of them guys build their own engines, which is fine, which is great. It gives us an opportunity. You know, these are invariably wealthy individuals that can utilize a professional drag racer, a professional engine builder, you know, and they can afford it, you know, because it's an expensive business. So, but we got more and more drag racing works, and because it's become so specialized, you know, at one time you could get a small block Chevy and put a little cam in it and a carburetor and a thing and being competitive and stuff like that. That's not the case now, you know. You know, a 400 horsepower engine ain't going to cut it in drag racing anymore now, you know. Small block Chevys are starting at 600 horsepower and big blocks are starting at 800, 900 horsepower. You ain't doing that in your garden at home, I'll tell you.
Or at least not.
No. You know, with all the will in the world, and you aren't doing that type of work. I've realised it now as I've sort of retired, if you like, that you know you get involved in some other people, and you're thinking you can't do this type of work without access to a professional engine builders and this type of facility. You know, I'd forgotten almost because you're so used to it, and you're thinking you can't do this. Myself and Ben have often said they're too bloody complicated. You need hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of kit to build racing engines nowadays. If you haven't got all this stuff, you can't do it. You think, oh, well, we can. You actually can't. You need so much, crack detection, this type of machining, balancing, head work, head shops, dyno testing. There's so much stuff that you have to have. And the myriad of sort of small measuring equipment, bore gauges, honing, just so much stuff that you need. And if you don't have it, you can't do a good job. You'd like to think you can, but you can't, So that's how it works.
You can always throw something together yourself.
You can. And I'm afraid there's a bit of a saying here, if you throw them together, they'll throw themselves apart. Yeah. So, I'd have to say that's the conclusion we got. We've often said, and myself and Ben have often discussed it, why have we got all this stuff? Because you need it. And there's so many times that we've come in and think, what would we do if we didn't have this? And I can't even start to tell you what we've got. I mean, head shop work, valve guides, seating equipment, spring testers, honing equipment for valve guides. It's just hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of stuff that you need. What appears to be a fairly simple job, But
and that isn't common, I should imagine.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with the drag racing. I mean, this is a really good example of what Ben and EDA specialise in now. Is that to set this kit up now is probably 10,000 quid, And then you need the bleeding milling machine.
Oh, that's not included.
Yeah, you know, that's not a milling machine, you know. But Ben does, probably in an exaggeration to say, you're doing probably hundreds of these for all sorts of other engine builders, and they utilise our facility to do this. It's just, that's the type of thing that they're able to do here that I wasn't able to do when we first started. And I realised that when we first started, and as we progressed, and Ben joined us nearly 20 years ago and all that sort of stuff, is that you have to have this sort of stuff to build the type of engines that's available. You know, as you said earlier, that small block Chevy with a bit of a cam and a Holly carburettor on don't work anymore.
The street hot rod.
Yeah, I'm afraid that don't work. It's, the level has moved so much. The level has moved.
Well, now you can buy hundreds of horsepower off the showroom floor.
Yes, you can. You can.
And it's crazy to think.
Yeah,
There are certain classes of drag racing where the price of admission is 1,000 horsepower.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it isn't dicking around in your garage anymore. It's getting serious.
Yeah, and that's why you need a facility like this. You know, and this is a one-stop shop. This to a very large extent. The only thing that we didn't have the space or even the inclination. We never got into crank grinding. We have access to a really good crank grinder with and they do our work. But pretty well everything else here, down to line boring blocks and machining and everything, and boring and honing, we can do in-house. We don't do it all in-house. Sometimes it's not cost effective. But even reconditioning, connecting rods and all that sort of stuff, we can do everything here in-house if we want. If it's viable. So that's how it sort of started, and that's how it ended up. We started off at one place and ended up at a different place. So that's how it came. But and the big thing that Ben has specifically, we have access to a load of other specialists as well. So you know that helps us as well, because we do work for them and they do work for us, or have done. So that was always and it worked very well for us. I mean, that's one of the things that I will say has changed over the years, is that within a relatively small area around here, we can get nearly anything done in the engine building game. You know, most of it we can do ourselves here in the shop, but we've got access to all sorts of specialised people, and that's been a good thing for us, because having a good relationship with all our customers and all our suppliers has really meant it's easy. You come in here and you can get anything done through EDA.
Yeah.
Simply because of what we're able to do in-house and what we've got access by, you know, I've been here 30 years, basically, 40 years nearly, 35 years.
Yeah.
So.
And you have been in the same building?
Yeah, never moved.
Now,
yeah, this is the second dyno. This is not the original we bought, but it's the same style. And that's been an absolute asset to us here. And our dyno man, who's not here at the moment, but he's probably dynoed more engines than anybody else in the country. So, you know, he's dynoing engines every day.
2 and 3 a day occasionally.
Yeah, some days, you know.
And, I mean, you have people travel here from
Bristol, yeah.
Southern coast, South coast.
Malta.
Yeah, Malta. Yeah.
That's how we got with the Maltese.
Engine in there going out back to the States.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Literally worldwide.
Yeah.
You're shipping
the McLaren
V8s.
engine in there, it's going out to the States.
Yeah.
Shipping V8s to America.
Yeah. We're able to do that. You know, so yeah, it's, you know, we even down to our circuit race thing. We were the only people to win the. Maybe Peter Knight's done it since. But at the time we won the Spa 6 hour, which was the biggest historic motor race in Europe, without a doubt. The 6 hour race, and we won that twice in the same car.
Yeah, 2 years in a row.
2 years in a row, and we had the pole position 4 years in a row. So and we won it twice. Yeah, well, you know, I used to think that a load of jokers from Castleford, and we're beating the best in Europe. So yeah, that we're all right. We did okay. You know,
I like that. A load of people probably couldn't find Castleford on a map.
No, that's right. You know, but you know, but no, it's you know, we're very, you know, and Ben is continuing it. Hopefully, you know, we're very proud of our little business here, because we started off when I opened the doors here in February 1989. I didn't have a single job to start on. Not one job.
Oh,
And
so
the only,
you're really starting from
no,
scratch
nothing.
then.
I didn't, I had to come down and see if the phone had been disconnected. But at the time, you'd have to go back, and people like Dave Powell will tell you and stuff like that. Oh, Dave's retired now, but we used to ring each other up and say, "Have you got any work on, Dave?" And he'd say, "No." I had the phone ring and stuff, and then we were just looking around for. And the first job I ever did here was an engine for myself.
Right.
And I thought, well, if I see the end of the year out, well, I'll have to go back to
Flattening and polishing.
polishing cars. So that was it. But anyway, it worked out there, and it was a rough couple of years and stuff. And knowing what I know now, I would have done things differently, but I didn't know any different. So we just got started.
So
but
from there to a frankly enviable reputation for
Yeah.
engine building. Oh, no, it's been, what you say, 30 and a bit years.
Well, including Ben's tenure now, which is
5 years.
just over 4 years now. So it's 35 years, yeah. So 31. Yeah, so we did all right, and then we've enjoyed our time here, which is something I didn't enjoy in the body shop job, to be honest with you. So
what is it? A man who enjoys his job.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that statement, but
yeah. There's one thing for sure. If you don't like doing it, you won't be any good at it. That's for sure. It doesn't matter what it is, And so if you like what you're doing, you'll probably get good at it. It's like all this type of stuff. If you didn't have a bit of an interest in it, and you want to be, the best you can and do a really good job, then chances are you'll do a good job. If you got something that you hate being here and you don't want to be doing it, well, you're not going to get any good at it. Yeah, you've only got to go into a shop or something like that, and it's somebody who's enthusiastic and they can sell you pits and they can do the job. If the people there they don't want to deal with you, they don't want to speak to you, they don't care, you ain't going to buy anything from them people. You got to tell people, Ben's still racing, he enjoys his racing, I still enjoy racing. It's something I have a passion for. So
do you still race?
No, I don't race anymore. I wouldn't get in one of these cars for the gold pig. I can tell you, I wouldn't get out of the electric chair to get in some of these cars. But I wouldn't get in Ben's car now. Much too. The last time I was out in the car, I thought this is too quick for me, and that was a low 8-second car. And I thought, no, I've done my share. I've been upside down and on fire and all that sort of stuff. So I've done my share, but I wouldn't get in one of these cars again nowadays.
Some of these cages, I don't think I could get in.
No, I couldn't either. I couldn't, but. We started off with with next to nothing here, and we had a load of enthusiastic people around us. The late great Dave Grady was one of our big supporters early days, and we had a good old pal of mine when my crew chief was died recently, and Simon Brunton, and he was a big support. He was always down here giving us a bit of a hand, and then we got a lot of support from other engine builders. People like Dave Grady and like Dave Billadew and Rob from ICE and Kev Perkins from ICE and Dave Powell, and they all supported us and we supported them, so it was Peter Knight and Tim Adams and all sorts of folks. So, but we had the situation where, and Ben continues to do it, he tries to make it a sort of inclusive and a friendly place.
Approachable.
Approachable, yeah. We try and help people, try to do the best job we can, and did do. And 95% of the people that I knock around with are friends out of this business, Whereas when I was in the body shop business, I've got to tell you, I didn't have any friends out of the body shop business. I went away from there, left out. I got my money out of the body shop business, and I didn't have a telephone number of anybody apart from some lads that worked for me at the time. I didn't have one customer's telephone number. Whereas I'd say 95% of customers I had here, if I saw them in the street, I'm sure they'd buy me a drink. Some of them, not all of them.
Is that a broad hint?
Yeah, but I have a good. Fortunately, I believe so. I have a good relationship with my own because you're in a business that you need that type of relationship. If it's not a garage job. It's not a tyre place. It's not a body shop.
It's leisure industry.
Yeah,
exactly.
Within the leisure industry, you got
care about what
yeah,
Hopefully.
yeah. You're in the leisure industry, and once you stop enjoying it, you're out of business. They've got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy it. People want to spend money, but you need to take. You need to spend it wisely and honestly. Take take the money off them, but, you know, do a good job and spend it wisely, you know.
Yeah.
And we've had a good relationship. You know, I say I'm still working for the Maltese, go out there and give them a hand with their car still. And, you know, at that time when we first started, the reason why we got the job is that for some reason, and I could never really understand the reason, you know, people, they were getting ripped off. That's all it was. And, you know, they're 1,000 miles away, and why would we be bothered and all that sort of stuff. And we had a fantastic relationship with them, and that's still, you know, that's still going, you know, still a relationship I'm still involved with. And that's because we did a good job, you know.
Right. I've been here before now, and it's kind of like a social club. People drop in, customers will drop in for a chat or a bit of advice.
Every day virtually.
People,
Tell me a bit of this, that.
You know, you've got to do the work. At the end of the day, you've got to get the work out. You're going to get it, you know. But you know, we always try to do that. But again, Ben said it. You know, it's got to be an approachable place. You don't want to feel like a stranger coming here. And I always like to think that the best of my ability, you know, we always was give people good advice, because people, oh, you know, people are sharp. If you give them bad advice, they soon know. They soon find out. So give them good. If you're going to give them any advice, give them some good advice. And if you know, and if you don't know, you don't know. You know, don't tell them you know if you don't. You know, me personally, for example, I never got involved with electronics because I don't know. I've no interest in it, and I don't know anything about it. Now these lads, you know, hopefully at some stage, that's their
We're
generation.
To get
thing.
there now. We're going to have to.
You're going to have to get involved with the electronic stuff, you know. But then, you know, so I could never give anybody good advice on that because I didn't know myself. But, you know, very early days, I was involved with the mechanical fuel injection. Lucas fuel injection was another area that I used to specialise in. And then got Hillborn and, you know, Crower and all that type of stuff. And it weren't because I thought I was smart. It's because I researched that. I found out because there was, when I was looking for people to help me, it wasn't anybody there. So I thought, well, the best thing I can do is find out myself and see if I can, you know, become an expert with it, you know. So, and that's what we try to do. So, you know, like Ben's running a mechanical fuel injection. People say, oh, that's decades old. It's all sort of stuff. Very, very popular at the moment. Very popular. Probably more popular now than it ever bloody has been. You know, all mechanical fuel injection. I said, when I went out with my small block in the police car Rover, when I went out of that, there was nobody else running blown alcohol in anything other than top alcohol.
Yeah. Nothing.
No other classes at all. So putting it in a full-bodied car was very much out. And I thought at the time, well, why is nobody else doing this? You know, everybody's running these big nitrous motors. You know, your Dave Warnes and your Mingays and all them people that were around at the time, and even, you know, people like Jeff Hauser and all that sort. So they were running nitrous, but, you know, they were all, nitrous was a big deal when I started here. That seemed to be the hot ticket now, and I went in a different direction. And at the time, I thought, well, I'm not that smart. Why is nobody else doing it? But nobody was doing it at the time. And Bernie Epworth, who ran one of my engines, I think at that time with a small block Chevy, I think he ran something like an 820, which was pretty presentable with a small block in them days in a full-bodied car. So I didn't run that quick with my small block. Do I need to get this or just forget about it?
Get it if you wish.
Right. Dave Swift. Hiya, Dave.
Talk to you for a bit if you like.
Yeah, not too bad, Dave. I'm just in a meeting with a customer. I'll tell you about it later. But I'm just in a meeting. Can I help you with quickly?
Yeah, 2003, 4 ish, around then. It's that long ago. Struggling to 22.
No, just after the pump. A big one after the pump. Don't put anything before the pump.
Kind of. I worked as
but
a
I tell you
labourer in a sheet
what,
metal
filter
shop
the
before I
fuel.
started
That thing,
here.
they all tell
Kenny
you,
made me a
filter
call
the
one day,
fuel
said,
to
"Would you like to
protect
come
the
and work for
pump.
me?"
Don't put anything. You can
Of course,
get
I thought about it for about
cavitation
5
problems and
seconds,
stuff
and I was
like
on my way
that.
to
So
Castleford.
fuel filter after the pump.
So yeah, I started
One
just
filter.
not knowing anything.
One filter.
We'd read
All
about
right, Dave. I'll speak to you in a
dad's
bit.
Mustang
Ta-da.
the year prior, so I'd seen inside one, knew roughly what went into them, had no idea what was involved. No, I've been around in it my whole life, so I'm very fortunate with that. I had a bit of an idea, knew what went into what did what. but we'd never really involved in precision racing engines, if you like, professional racing engines. So fortunately, between Kenny and Dennis, who's the current dyno guy still, they taught me everything that I needed to know, or got me started, and I'm still very, very enthusiastic about it. Certainly was back then. So I'll go out there and I'll read books and read magazines and just whatever I need to be to learn the job. And fortunately, with Kenny there, taught me pretty much everything I needed to know.
Yeah, because 20 years.
Yeah.
2003.
I think it was, 3 or 4-ish around then. Yeah.
That's it. Because I mean, at the time, I remember you and your old man racing at York.
Yeah, that's it. Dad started racing his Mustang mid-90s.
Yeah.
And just come up from there. Obviously, I bought the Pop in 2001, so I did own that car.
Really?
Yeah, I owned that. 2001, I bought the car as a bare body and chassis. So I was passionate about the drag racing, into the drag racing. There was no other path that I was going to be taking for sure at that point. Was into the drag racing and the job to work. I'd actually come in the Christmas previous. I started in August, and Dad was doing Kenny's alarm at home, and I said, I want to work here, Dad. This is where I want to be. 8 months later, Kenny rings me up and says, do you want a job? So yeah, it was just a no-brainer, really.
Oh yeah, that is.
Yeah, dream come true, and it still is. It still is. We come in every day, and it's just, who wouldn't want to be surrounded by big block, small block Fords and Chevys every day, running in the corner. It's just wonderful.
If you like it, it's all right. Not everybody likes it, but yeah, we like it.
And it's hard work some days.
Oh yeah.
When the dyno goes down and something's leaking and dustbin wagons on fire outside, it can be hard. Oh no, that's a long story. You don't want to know that story. Yeah, you don't want to know that one. But no, it's a real good job. We said, going back to, we want to be approachable. We want everyone from multi-millionaires who have GT40s to a guy that's got a little Econo dragster with a small block Chevy in it, and we want to do as good a quality work for every single one in between there.
Absolutely.
I'd rather see people at the track having a good time than people going, no, I ain't got this, I can't do that, and we're not going racing.
But the people who are doing well at the
I want to beat them at the track, to be fair, as well. So, yeah. And there is a lot of that. As Ken was saying about the drag racing, when I first started, it was all historics. We didn't do that many drag racing, odd one or two, but now it's definitely over 50% of drag racing we're doing now, and I don't know why that's changed.
It's not like there's any less enthusiasm or money in
no,
historics,
no, not at all. We do plenty of that. That's what this is for. This is a Mustang or a GT40 type engine that we do quite a lot of. I think with the drag racing, the quality of drag racing has improved over the last 20 or 30 years. So the quality of cars, the quality of aftermarket parts. So when you're buying an engine or building an engine that's not based on any GM parts, there's a lot more work involved in them. When you're using production head, production blocks, production cranks, you can probably do them at home. Nowadays, nobody uses factory parts.
No.
There's just so much more work in it.
And yet, like you said, the historic guys have to use.
Again, this is a 1966 Ford 289 block that you have to virtually remachine.
It has to be the right date code.
They only made the 289 for 3 years, 4 years. So to find one that's virginal now is virtually impossible.
We must have had every one.
Yeah, I think we've blown a lot of them up anyway. So there's a lot of work to do in them, which is good for us.
A lot of work.
Aftermarket caps, lifter bores, we've done fully modern CNC machine work that's done on the bores and the deck surfaces, just to try and make them as good as we can and last as long. They do 6-hour races, so they need
and high revs.
7,000 RPM virtually all the time.
But they got to use things like stock rocker arms and things like that. You can't imagine them going around with 7,000 RPM
on a ball type rocker.
On a ball type single stud rocker.
But they do.
That's what they do. They have to do. That's the rules. How
they did them in period, I still don't know.
Cast iron heads and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, stock cast iron heads. That has changed a bit recently, but that's ostensibly what it is. Stock blocks and stock heads.
Right.
You can do anything else in between, but
you can put any cam you want in it, but that's generally limited by the rocker arms.
Yeah.
You put a big fat roller cam in there and you're just going to snap rocker arms forever. So it's about endurance as well as good power. Yeah. So they've got to last a long time.
Yeah.
That's it.
And be faster than the other guys.
I mean, you were telling me earlier what you're doing here, which is kind of specialist, right behind you there.
Yeah, so this is a blueprinting on the lifter bars. So the kit's made by BHJ. They make some incredibly nice fixtures, machining tools. So this blueprints the lifter bars back into the correct place on the cam lobes and in the block. They can often be out. It puts a more compatible material in for the modern lifters, and it allows us to hone them to an exact spec that we want for the clearance.
Right, now, like you said, this is a factory block.
A factory Ford block, produced in 66.
What are they like for tolerances?
Ford's a little bit. The Ford clearances are often a little bit on the tight side, which is good because you can hone them to a proper clearance, unless they're worn or out of line. But they're generally not bad. Not bad on the lifter bores. Everything else is sort of moved or shifted, you know, after 50 odd years of use.
Well, yeah.
But they're generally not too bad on the lifter bores. But it's the compatibility with the materials with the modern hard lifters and the soft old cast iron blocks.
But you were telling me that modern lifters are like
brick hard, yeah.
Yeah,
And certainly
yeah.
we, with the racing that we do, we have them hardened cams, hardened lifters.
not just the surface that acts on the cam, but the whole lifter.
The whole lifter, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what are you doing here? You're sort of boring out
Boring them out oversized, yeah. Blueprint them back into the original place. It has a bar in the camshaft and a bar at the top, which locates it in exactly the right place, shimmed from the front of the block. And then it bores it out to 1 inch, and then the sleeves are about 1 inch and 3/0, so the 3/0 interference fit. We knock them in, ream them out to a...
Knock them in.
Yeah, we literally knock them in. And then
so phosphor bronze.
Yeah, phosphor bronze, and then ream them out to a undersize, so they're about 2 or 3/0 under lifter size. Drill the oil hole in them, deburr that, and then we can hone them to a finished size to get us, you know, 1.5 to 1.7 tenths clearance. So it's quite a specific range that we like to get them in. Much bigger than that, and they're a bit floppy, and it can be a bit noisy.
Right.
Much less than that, and they'll be tight and nip up.
And however, you've then got a very stable base for your valve train.
Correct. Yeah. It's the only way that the cams can be in the right place, the lifters can be in the right place. Sorry, and everything just works way much better. It's the same decking the block surfaces 90 degrees to each other, level front and back. It's the fundamental start of it. It's the foundations of the block, and you know the lifter bars. Everything is essentially to be in the right place.
And this is for an engine that's going to be, well, like you say, howling around in an endurance.
Yeah, this is GT40. Is this? So
oh, it is a GT.
Yeah, we're building this for a GT40. So 48 IDA Webers, some original 60s Ford heads that we've had CNC ported. So we've got a program for a CNC porting that we can have done.
Brilliant.
They make just over 400 horsepower, somewhere in that kind of range. Which for a stock 289, which would have done 200 horsepower, 220, maybe
Absolutely.
in a GT350 wouldn't have been much more than that. But for 6 hours all season, hopefully.
Wow. Oh, people will get a full season out of this, then?
Hopefully,
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But we did a lot of that when I first started here. We had one specific customer who had, I think, 13 of our engines, 10 of them being these. So we always had one of his 289s in one process of being rebuilt. He actually had 2 or 3 per car, so there's one in the car, one in the truck, one here.
Oh, right. Okay.
He had 3 cars. No, 3 cars, about 13 engines, 3 Chevys, 10 Fords. That was just at one point.
Wow.
That sounds like Kenny did a lot of work for him for.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's retired now, unfortunately, but we're still involved with it because the cars he sold on, we're getting the engines back to prepare and rebuild for the new owners, which is wonderful. You know, this Ford project was probably one of my favourites. I love this little Ford small block.
Well, I was going to say you are a Ford.
I am, really. Although we're going to run a Chevy in the race car, Fords is what we'd love, really. So this 8.2 deck small block is my favourite, really.
Stuff. And yeah, I mean, just looking around here, I mean, you got
871 blower. You get that everywhere, and a scoop up there. There'll be some injection stacks kicking around. That's what it was. I walked in this place, and there was 3 injector stacks sat up there.
Yes.
And I just fell in love. That was it. I need to be there, Dad. That's where I need to be.
Yes. Well, how long ago was it that you officially retired?
April
2020, just start of COVID. You were going to work till sort of August 2020.
my birthday,
Yeah.
and then
Which
COVID really kicked in.
Was that your 97th birthday?
Yeah.
No, you saved mate.
Yeah. And it will have been about then, but COVID was just kicking off, and I was going to be entering my 70th year then. And these lads rightly said, "You didn't ought to be down here. You didn't ought to be down."
The government was saying 70-year-olds stay home, weren't they? So you did.
And that's what it did. And I did get COVID, and I was ill. So a normal human wouldn't have stood it. But so yeah, and that's where sort of Ben came in. That's where the era then started, and you know.
You was talking about retiring, and the options were close the door, or myself and Dennis, or me, or one of us take over. And I thought it's too good a place to stop.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah. I actually love EDA, not just as a business that I own and run or work at. It's a beautiful place. It's a fantastic place that we help everybody out. You know, if I didn't work here, I'd look in it and go, "That's a cool place to be."
Yeah.
I didn't want to lose that. You know, we're
Not when you've spent decades.
No,
building
No,
it.
no, that's it. Like, we've got all this equipment. It's taken Kenny 30 odd years and then myself another 4 years of building everything up that we've got. And we still continue. A lot of the equipment's fairly old. It's serviced and works well. And we are continuing to buy new stuff all the time as jobs change and stuff upgrades and new products and parts come out. You have to.
Well, presumably also what's in your heads.
And there's a bit of that, you know, between sort of me, Kenny and Dennis, really, there must be over 100 years of experience in these, you know, and Scott and Rocky have come along. Rocky's been with us 10 years, really, since he started at school. So yeah, we've got a lot of knowledge between us all, really, and we all have our own little areas that we try and be specialists in and experts in and get a good job done out of that.
Yeah, no kidding. And like I say, people keep coming back.
Well, that's, you know, again, going back to what a shame it would have been if we'd have had to close the doors back in
we didn't want
August
that
2020 when Kenny retired or whatever he did.
Yeah,
we didn't want it. We like the service that we offer to people. You know, it's better than a real job, which is another one of Kenny's quotes. It just couldn't stop. You know, it had to continue, really. Yeah, like you say, it's a bit of a social. We do get Friday. Nice day. I'm surprised we haven't had a car come down, to be honest. There's usually somebody, they'll come for oil and filters, especially at this time of year, spark plugs, that kind of thing.
Oh, do you keep this sort of stuff in stock?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we keep it for ourselves, but if someone walks through the door wanting it, we will happily sell them it, we're a stop off for the drag weekend in a few weeks.
Well, I was going to come on to that.
Yeah, but I want to be here for that weekend, partly. I want a box of oil filters, spark plugs, all that by the way, rocker cover gasket, you know, the basics that I think people may need. And if I can help them out when they're here on a Saturday, I'm going to be here open all day, just waiting for anyone to come through. And I'm looking forward to have coffee and donuts on. That'd be a brilliant day, I think. So I'd be racing if we could, but no.
Who's coming, do you know?
All of them, hopefully. We are an official stop-off checkpoint, so all of them, all 83 cars, with a bit of luck.
I was going to say, I think entry's still open.
And 83 last night. We were looking. 83 cars, So I'm just going to be. I'd like to race the car I want to race there. It's not finished yet, so let's just do what I can do up here. I've got a few bits and pieces. When you've been into it 40 years, you get a bit of shit together, don't you?
So busman's holiday for you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We finish work and go home and work on the race cars occasionally, but that's what I love, and it's just nothing else I would rather do, really.
Yeah, if you like it, you like it. You know, that's the thing.
I'm still probably more enthusiastic now than I was 20 years ago when I came here.
That's brilliant. And not jaded at all.
Not at all. No. Even after the bad days, you know, I'd still go home and work on the race car. You know, it's still what I want to do, really.
Brilliant. Right, is there any chance we can have a quick look around this workshop and you can show people what it is you do?
Absolutely. Let's have a look round. The dyno behind you is probably the best place. Unfortunately, never looked at anything without an engine on it. So Kenny built this enclosure 30 odd years ago. Soundproof. You can actually stand by the door with the door shut with an engine running and have a conversation. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and yes, and it needs to be. So it's set up for a Chevy at the moment. We've got a Rover on Monday, so we'll swap the bell housing over engine mounts, and we'll end up putting a Rover V8 on it for another drag racing guy up in Scotland. Right. So yeah, they literally come all over the UK.
Very big ceiling vent.
Yeah, that's the fan, sort of the inlet. So it has a fan in this side, in the left-hand side, and a big neck. If you actually look on the roof, the Dragon's Head, that's where that goes. And it's sort of an evacuation system that pulls air out. And it's the size of the room, the size of the fan is all calibrated to do like a 500 cubic inch big block at 1,000 horsepower. So the air is there enough, not too much, not too little. So yeah.
So to replicate some real conditions.
As close as you possibly can, yeah.
And you must have seen some mighty numbers on here.
Yeah, sort of 1,200-1,300 horsepower naturally aspirated, really. The dyno's rated at 1,000. Yeah, we're one or two, not many, but we've got one coming up in a few weeks with a bit of luck that's sort of around 1,200 horsepower.
Isn't that sort of like pro stock kind of thing?
Yeah, it is, yeah. It'd kill me if I told you what it was.
Right, okay.
No. But no, it's 1,000 foot-pound of torque the dyno's rated at, so you can upgrade it, but it would be less accurate at the 500-600 horsepower range, which is 95% of all the dynos. If it were 2,000 horsepower rated, it would be less accurate. And you know, there's no point making it less accurate for 90% of them when 2% of them are there. So the computer's control around here, the console computer where all the...
I do love this console. It does look like something around James Bond.
Yeah, the technology is probably something out of a James Bond film. So unfortunately, it's sort of 80s printed circuit board technology, which is out of date, and it's, touch wood, it's pretty good. It's reliable and it works.
Don't bust it.
No. So it gets used, I wouldn't say every day of the week, but I'd say 4 out of 5 days a week. There's something on it. We could have 2 or 3 engines a day. Certainly if we do a lot of the mini engines, we'll put 2 or 3.
It's not just V8.
No, well, we only build V8s, but we will dyno test, not everything, but anything we can physically get on there. We've got another local engine builder who does a lot of V8s and mini stock car type engines. Well, he'll come along with 2 and 3 and 4 a day sometimes.
Right, okay. Wow.
So yeah, that's the dyno. Starting in the back corner, really, we've got a crack testing facility around there. Again, another old machine out of an aircraft factory when Kenny set up. Still works faultlessly. It's a Magnaflux type machine, so it puts an electric current through it. It shows up a crack as clear as day. We crack test cranks, rods that we pull out of motors. We also do half shafts, spindles, suspension components for historic cars if one of the local guys comes down with it. If it's made out of steel and we can physically get it in the machine, yeah, we'll crack test it. Yeah, a little. Oh yeah, that's one of my own projects again. Just giving it a fresh out before I send it for cleaning. The old Colchester lathe, another machine that gets used every single day of the week.
It's probably still as accurate now.
It probably is. Yeah, it's fantastic. We don't have an issue again. The milling machine that's set up with a small block Ford on.
Yeah.
That gets. You say the machines that we have to have: the mill, the lathe, and the crack tester are 3 essential parts there. Fixtures everywhere, cutting tools, you name it. We've got so many different fixtures and fitting set up. Headers for the dyno. Yeah, yeah, they're all set up. We've got EGTs and lambdas in them. So this is where I spent most of my first 15 years, 20 years, or maybe even certainly 15 years. The crank balancer.
Right.
I always say I probably balanced 1 crank for every day that I worked here, and it probably still is still true. So 20 years. 300 cranks a year or whatever it will have been. I've balanced everything from straight 8 Mercedes, single cylinder Honda generator type engines, big block Chevy, small block Chevys, Cleveland, you name it. If it's got a crank in it, I've had a go at some point.
Right, okay.
We do lots of flywheels. We did a lot of bus flywheels for a bus company at one point. Yeah, so that's what earned my wages for the first 20 years of being here, really. 15 years, certainly.
And I've had my crank was balanced.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, you came up to see us a fair few years back now, 3 or 4 years, maybe.
Yeah, only doing that.
Maybe more.
Slack of it. But yes, hopefully I'll be here on that street weekend.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, that's it. I'm going to be sat out front in the deck chair, hopefully seeing all you boys and girls.
Try and get here early.
You get extra bonus points if you do a burnout in the yard as well. I've been told. I have to clarify that with Max, but I'm pretty sure it's true. Engine building shop through this way. This is sort of a. Let me check. No, it's all pretty clear at the moment. So, start of this end. This is a all aluminium 540 cubic inch big block Chevy out of a McLaren M8F. So the Can-Am car, you all know, the bright yellow one. That is the engine out of that. Lucas timed injection on that. So it's a real nice piece. 850 horsepower, somewhere around that range.
So what sort of year is that?
Early 70s, I would guess. 70, 71. Yeah. No, it didn't. No.
But it was mighty.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah. A few bits of folded aluminium with a 900 horsepower big block in them. So, yeah. With big fat tyres at each corner. They're like an 8-second car, like probably a low 8-second altered that goes around corners.
Yes.
So they'll do an 8-second pass round a corner, 8-second pass. That is just phenomenal.
And because they run them at Speedfest and things like that. And not much silencing on them.
No, none at all. No, we've got years before we had one of our customers with one of these. It was clocked over 200 mile an hour at Daytona. Oh. So they'll fly these things. Nice. These two are a pair of fairly mild boat motors. So ex Mercruiser 454s. We've stroked them a 500 cubic inch roller cam. So again, it's a bit of a duration. They race them, but quite a long duration, so fairly mild, 500 horsepower-ish, but that'll go quite a while.
Yeah, so I mean, are these revvy things? These?
No, I think 5,500 RPM, 6,000 RPM
right.
top. So normal, but yeah, I suppose it depends what size prop they put on them. They're We've got a bit into the boat world just recently. I don't know why.
I
But
know nothing.
no, it's another huge world. Offshore powerboat racing is, phenomenally big. You don't hear about it, but then in Castleford there's not much offshore powerboat racing, so I guess you probably wouldn't.
I'm from near Birmingham, so there's
No offshore.
the canal.
Yeah. But no, they're interesting. The late model Gen 5, 6 blocks. We've seen more and more of them lately. The later model blocks. One-piece rear sail big blocks. There's a lot more of them coming out. For years we never saw any. But I've got, I think, 3 in the shop at the minute, and we see them all the time. We're having to carry the gaskets, and the bits and pieces that are different from their gaskets are different. Rear seal, sumps, all different.
Right.
But no, it's another bit more of a learning curve.
Lovely.
What's them? What else out here?
What else we got going on?
We try and keep them all covered up to keep them out. This is an ex-NASCAR engine that's come back in for sort of check over, convert back to dry sump. That's going in a like historic GTP Le Mans type car.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's going to make a bit too much power, so we're going to have to down tune it. We might be swapping the camshaft in it yet.
What's something mild?
Milder, yeah. The transmission in the car is rated at 600 horsepower, and we think that'll be 650. So we want to drop it down on power a little bit more.
Just for reliability.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The one at the side of it is a dark block, small block Ford, 363 cubic inch out of a single turbo Mustang, SN95 Mustang. Again, something very close to my heart at the moment. So,
yeah.
This is coming. It was built by another engine builder. A few little issues over the years. It's running it's done nearly 800 horsepower at the wheels.
Wow.
So yeah, it's quite an impressive thing.
It's like 0.2 deck.
Yeah, 8.2. It's 4.125 so it's 360 cubic inch. I think it runs about 15 pound of boost in it. I want to beat him. I mean, I want to do him a really good job, but no. So no, it's really exciting. Is that one? It's exactly what I'm sort of. It's was tickling my alley at the minute. Yeah. The one at the side of it is a 408 stroker Cleveland. Now Clevelands are not something we get involved with too much. This is for a customer that does Di Tomatoes. So we've actually, this is going in a Pantera. Is this one? We've got 2 engines, 4-bolt Australian type block. So sought after Cleveland type parts. Yeah. It'll do 450 horsepower, 500 foot-pound of torque. We do quite a lot of this. Yeah, quite a lot of this 408 Windsor setup. Steel crank, H-beam rods. They're a nice piece, but they're going in a nice, valuable car. So the guy's actually quite keen on spending money on the motors nowadays.
Yeah. Top end is choice. That's fantastic stuff.
So we don't do a lot of Clevelands, but that guy will do. He's a good. We've done quite a lot for him over the years, so we'll do that for him.
Right, and of course, as it happens, being as it's a nice sunny day outside, we've got your own little tool. Are you going to have a look at this?
Of course we can, yeah.
Quite a bit of history to it itself.
Yeah, 77 I think they came out. 77 or 78 they first came out with it.
And this was?
It was the Flavel Brothers Pop Dragon originally, and then became Fatal Attraction sort of 1986-ish, I think it was.
That's it, but probably when the film came out.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, and I think that's where I got that date from. Yeah, it was a race car I watched as a child, sort of loved it. It was bright pink, so of course it stood out to everybody. Between me and my sister, we really enjoyed watching it racing. They stopped racing in 94, 95. It got parked for quite a number of years. Got broke, the rear axle got sold, the engine, transmission, wheels, pretty much everything. I found it was for sale in 2001, I think it was. Went up to see it.
Was it still with the Flavel?
Yeah, Alan still had it. Alan Flavel still had it at home. I spoke to Mark, said, "Yeah, Alan's Pop's still for sale. I need to buy it, basically."
Yeah.
I went to see it. It was body shell, front end chassis, front suspension, no rear suspension, no interior, none. It was just literally a body and chassis.
Yeah.
It had an aluminium floor pan in it. I went and sat on the floor in the car in Alan's garage and went, "When can I come and get it?" Basically, It was 350 quid. I had 300 quid. That's all I had. So I offered him the money. And then I had to save up a couple more weeks, months or whatever it was to hire a trailer to go get it. It was literally that kind of, I had nothing behind me. I was a labourer in the fabrication shop, just started work. I was 18.
So this was before you'd started?
Yeah, way before I started. Yeah, I was probably 18. I've been 18 when I bought it. It was my first car. This was the first car I properly bought and owned. And
before a street car?
Yeah, before everything. Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
And yeah, because I mean, at the time, what class was it racing in?
Super gas.
Yeah.
It was
a 990 thing, and it was contemporary. Because I mean, this is proper old school stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. When I bought it, it was very contemporary for when it was parked. Really, it was, the paint, the lettering, the stickers, everything on it was bang up to date. It was still pink, but this 70s look is definitely something I prefer.
Yes, you and your old man.
Yeah. Again, as we were talking earlier, mine comes back from reading Dad's old magazines. Carcraft, Hot Rod magazine, Superstock magazine from the 70s. It obviously had a huge effect on me. So, there's nothing I've ever wanted more than a 70s, Craig R Super Tricks. Even the Hillborn, the 70s lettering, the stickers, the padded roof, everything is just exactly what I wanted. The M&H tyres, the Moroso front runners.
So I mean, it's not sort of a tribute to any one car.
Not at all. No, it's got little bits of lots of cars that I like.
Yeah. And all period.
All period cars. Yeah, the lettering and everything, the stickers are all sort of 1973. I went through mental magazines from 1973, and the styles, the lettering, everything's there. I've tried to keep it fairly old looking on the outside, but if we go inside, it's quite a modern car. That's why it's got the red windows.
Well, I take it it's got a 21st century cage and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of a 750 spec cage in it. It's still old school on the rear end. It's got ladder bars and some basic coilovers. I've done a 120/60 foot in it, so I think that's enough to what we need to do.
It's not a flyweight.
No, it weighs 2,700 pounds. So as far as pop goes, it's fairly heavy. Yeah. It's got an all-iron big block Chevy in it with an 871 blower on it. So there's a lot of weight in engine. There's a lot of tube in the chassis to keep me safe. There's 2 batteries in it to make sure it starts. With a blown alcohol motor, you can virtually make as much power as you ever want. So the power side of it is easy. I want to make it safe, manageable, reliable, and the car drives like a dream.
Well, you're saying it's surprising.
Yeah, 160 mile an hour, one-handed through the traps. Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm very, very happy with how the car drives.
And I mean, I've said this before, you can't really get the paint to pop on.
No, the way Dave McCallum painted it, and how he managed to get that colour out of my head and onto the car, I don't know. But
oh, you didn't actually specify?
No, just a candy red, and it was mixed up on the fly as he was putting the paint into the gun. So mixing it again is going to be virtually impossible. But it's the colour I wanted, and you get a day like we've got today. Unfortunately, you can see it. Yeah. No, even your eyes sort of struggle. I've had it painted like this 3 years, and it still surprises me how nice it actually looks.
Who did the lettering?
Neil Milliard lettered it for me. Yeah. I was speaking to Neil quite a bit through the build of the car, or the rebuild of the car, and there was only him. He understood where I was going with the car. He knew exactly what I wanted. He's worked with a lot of the guys who did the original work that I've copied off. So the guys, I love the lettering style from the 70s. Yeah. He's been taught by them all. I worked with them all. Oh, right. There's no one any better to actually put the physical, proper style of lettering. I always say it's a California style car, but it's got New Jersey style lettering on the side of it. So it's a bit of a mix and match of everything I like. Yeah. But I am. That's the side of it I love. That's what gets me going. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's no headers on it at the moment. Unfortunately, they've gone for some Lambda bosses welding in them, so they're not at the moment.
I'm being blinded by your
by my gold. Obviously, with the 70s connection, I always wanted the gold Moroso rocker covers. Didn't want them to leak, so I had my old gold EDA valve covers made.
Brilliant stuff. What's this 871?
871 Mooney hand blower, yeah. The motor's 475 cubic inch, so not ridiculously big really. GM 427 truck block, 990 rectangle port heads, fairly mild roller cam, an 8-stroke crank, an old BRC crank from the 70s, Manley H-beam rods, some Ross flat top pistons, Doug Herbert valve train, so it's a Doug Herbert grind cam, lifters, valve springs, valves, everything.
So I mean, for what it is, that's not particularly radical, is it?
Not at all, no. I always say it's a fairly mild pickup truck engine. with a bit of methanol through it and some boost, and it seems to work.
You run 100% methanol.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Would you say, because he's still quite mild on the blower?
Yeah, the blower's 11% underdriven at the minute, making about £9 a boost.
But there's more to.
Yeah, we're going to go, I don't know, £5 or £10, 10% over possibly, make £15 a boost. The fuel system will support £15 a boost.
Right.
We're going to get it on the rollers over at John Sleeth's in a couple of weeks. That's why the lambda bosses are going in the headers. I'm going to see if I can make some more power with this. The tuner, as it's got at the minute, it ran 841.
Now, when did you debut it? It was a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so it'll be in Hot Rod Drags 21, I believe it was.
21, because we were still, events were on and off then.
Yeah, that was the season. That's why I didn't come out any other meetings that year, because it was on and off and on and off. And we got the car finished. We took it up to Melbourne to just drive. I'd never actually touched the throttle pedal with a car on alcohol. I didn't know what it was going to do, so I put it in the water at York and hit the throttle to do a burnout, and it took me by surprise, really. But we got a grips of it quite quick. We took it to the pod a few weeks after that. We bent some brackets on the axle, which, we were talking about. It just makes a lot of torque, and the brackets obviously weren't quite up to the job. We broke them, we rebuilt them, we came out to the Nostalgia's the year after. The first pass off the trailer, it went 880.
Wow.
Which I got back into the pits, threw the door open in a bit of a sulk. Somebody came up to me and says, "What's up?" I says, "I don't know what's wrong with the car. It's so slow." He went, "It just ran 880, but it felt like a mid-10. You know, I were on it all the way down the track. I thought, that's as hard as I can drive this car." Yeah. Sorry, Dad. No, I'm not. But yeah, the car just drives beautifully. It's just, yeah. It isn't, no. That first 880 just really, really surprised me. I got out of it expecting it were, you know, a 1050 timing ticket. That's how sedate and calm it felt. Wow. But then I've done hundreds and hundreds of passes in this car. And I always say the same story. Sat in the driver's seat, looking out of the windscreen, it feels exactly the same as it did when it was pink when I started running it in 2008 or whenever it was. Because the main hoop in the roll cage is still the same. So sat from where I sit, it looks the same. It's just 3 seconds quicker now.
Can we open the door?
Yeah, of course. So it's still right-hand drive as well, the way a pop should be. Tribute to a great friend.
A metal plate steering wheel.
Yeah, that was a 16th birthday present from my parents. Wow. So yeah, that steering wheel's been with me quite a lot of my life.
And the floors look sort of very, very similar to anodised valve covers.
Yeah, I've always had an obsession with stuff painted gold. I have actually got a set of gold Super Tricks for the car, but I've never run them on. So, you know, 750 type funny car cage, race pack data logger, MSD grid, hardwire PDM. There's some, I wouldn't say bang up to date electronics in it, but some fairly current stuff. Electric solenoid shifter. Nothing too complicated. Yeah, the cage was done by Andy Lindop at 351 Motorsport in Wakefield. Right. We tried to keep some of the original car. So I love the fact it's that old car, the old Pop Dragon Fatal Attraction car. So I wanted to keep some of it. So the bottom chassis rails up to the front of the rear wheels are from the 80s that the Flavels put in, and I believe the main hoop and the front bars on the cage we managed to keep as well, which they were still within spec, still within thickness. Right, okay. So we put new rear hoop, main hoop, rear half in it basically, funny car cage, new firewall bars, transmission bars, front bars to put the shorter struts in it. Right. Because it had the snow plough front on it with the big headlights in it. Of course it did. Yeah. Oh, that's where it all started from, this build. It was pink and it was running great. We were running low 10s. I had put an aluminium headed motor together and we went a little bit quicker. I really just wanted a torque converter in it to run low 9s, so I thought a blown alcohol big block Chevy and a new transmission and a new axle and a new paint job was the way around that. And that's what we've got today now. So we're just getting the car ready to come out at Dragstalgia now.
I was going to say, has it been out this year?
Not yet, no. Just life gets in the way, you know, with this place and the other projects and child and wife and family. You know, they come first, really. So,
I mean, you got married
12 months ago, exactly. Yeah, it's 20, yeah, just literally 12 months ago. This last weekend gone. So, yeah, thank you. Life's pretty busy, but I like my racing to be fun. We can come out when we want to come out and do what we want to do and not take it too serious, really. I'm not really into massive year-long championships. That doesn't really excite me too much. So I'm quite happy to come out, race my mates, run some good numbers.
Are you running in Outlaw Anglia?
Outlaw Anglia, yeah.
Which is, there's a series that's.
It's just a crazy class. When I first started running it with them, 2010 I think it was. If you had a low 9-second, high 8-second car, you know, you were up there. You were doing pretty good. Now you have to have a 6-second car.
Well, I was going to say, no, the beating down the door of the 6.
Yeah.
Importing fast buggers.
Yeah, well, that's it. I'm really looking forward to John coming over from Oz. We sort of helped out as best we can with, you know, the fun to get him over. So that's why the car's got to be out for Dragstalgia. I know I'll get him in first round. That is absolutely 100% sure. The cars will look great, both blown alcohol, red pops.
It'll be a good photo.
Yes, it'll make a great, yeah. As he disappears off into the distance in front of me. But as long as I'm having fun. I always say, got to do wheelies, burnouts, get the car down in that sun.
I really hope it is sunny, because if you're a Dragstalgia,
The car needs the sun, and it just. Yeah. I never thought anyone would like it, you know. That was because it is very, very, very 70s. It's all rally chopper and flared trousers, but it's gone down well. It has gone down well.
Well, considering rally have just reintroduced.
Well, yeah, exactly.
£1,000 a pop.
Yeah, so maybe everyone loves the 70s now.
Yeah.
Maybe Slade on the radio next. No, I genuinely thought nobody could like it, or not many people would like it, and you know they love it. They love it. They love it. I know it's a nicely finished car, but I didn't think anyone would be into the 70s stuff. Everyone's into 60s gassers.
Look at Nostalgia Superstar.
Yeah, that's it.
Classes out there.
Yeah, and they're all 70s cars, really, I suppose.
This is wonderful. And yes, so Dragstalgia's middle of July.
Yay, 10th, 11th, 12th, something around then.
So,
In July.
If you're into your old school drags, that's the place to be. And this thing's going to fit right in.
It was built to do the Nostalgia's Hot Rod Drags and Dragstalgia, really. They're the three that I really. I'm going to do door slammers in it next year, though. We went and watched the door slammers a couple of weeks. Me and my daughter went to the door slammers, and it was an amazing day. And I came away from that meeting enthusiastic about running this thing. Probably even in Pro Door Slammer, which will go out first round, but we could pair up against a Pro Mod. I mean, how cool would that photo be?
Yeah.
You know, modern cutting edge wedge Pro modified car, and this old 70s style pop.
Which
in the
still does actually have some 70s build bits in it.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. Yeah, the body shell doors. There's quite a lot of stuff in the car, really, that was the Flavels put in it in the 70s.
Drag-in versus Pro Mod.
No, I'd go see that. I'd go watch that. But if we can get down in the 7s as well, so you know, if I can get 1 or 2 timing tickets that say 799,999, then we'll just put it back to the 850 type spec and just run that. It's got no wings, no aero, and it's never having any of that on it.
I was going to say, it isn't no big wing on the back.
No.
What happened to the old shovel front?
I sold it to Bobby Wallace, and it came back up for sale on Facebook earlier this year. And I said, if it doesn't sell by Monday, I'll buy it back. And it sold, fortunately.
Oh, okay.
No, unfortunately, because I've got nowhere for it and no plans to ever put it back on the car.
But it was a proper sort of like flat front that came down.
Yeah, it was one of the very, very first cars with that shovel nose on. So I liked him in the period. I liked it when I first bought the car. Went off it fairly quickly. It had that with traffic cones on it, which were the headlights to hide the standard length Capri struts. Because when the car was built, I don't think anybody was doing. It was one of the very, very first cars to have tube frame with McPherson struts on the front. You know, there's very, very few cars had it when this came out in the very early 80s. So I managed to get some shortened struts off another car, and we put the front tubes in it, and we could fit a stock front on it then, which transformed the car into this. You know, that's where I went then and thought, right, I know where we're going.
You couldn't have made this style work with that shovel front.
I don't think you can make any style work with that shovel front, to be totally honest.
You never know, maybe those 80s things will
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Maybe my daughter will build an 80s replica nostalgia car. Neon everything. No, I want it to look a bit hot roddy, you know, a bit sort of fancy, but go like a proper race car. And with the data logging on it, we're actually recording a lot of information and using that for tuning. Which is...
I was going to say, one of the things I meant to ask Kenny a while ago is the company's called Engine Data Analysis. from the days long before
engine
every
data
car
analysis, yeah,
had
yes,
its own onboard
precisely.
data logging.
Which is why I always say to everybody, this car needs some sort of data logging on it, because we need to analyze the engine data.
Yes.
So, you know, that's literally, and that's what I enjoy doing. We'll go to the track, I enjoy doing it. We do it at work, I enjoy doing it. With a mechanical fuel injection, like Kenny were talking about earlier, there's not many people in England that can do the mechanical fuel injection. So I want to be, you know, the man that does that. And we got into a bit of trouble with it last year, which I still haven't got to the bottom of. But Dragstalgia, we were making jet change, reading spark plugs, really working with that mechanical setup, and just we went from running 880s to 840s, from, you know, a pulley change, a jet change, really basic tuning aids.
Yeah.
And we picked, you know, we lost nearly half a second. Wow. And that's what I'm hoping to do again.
Half a second in the eights.
Yeah,
is a
yeah. It's not like we were running 1350s and we went 13. It was a big jump.
Wow.
No, we're going to play with the rear suspension a little bit. I want to do a 1.1 something 60 foot in that car.
You were saying it's already doing
120 is the quickest I've done. Yeah. If we can get into the 119s, 118s, closer to the 4s, we've run 530 at the 8th. So if we can get it into the 5 teens, maybe at the 8th, that's...
Right. I mean, like I say, it is still ladder bar, isn't it?
Yeah, ladder bars and Protec cheap single adjustable aluminium shocks on the back of it. There's just nothing really sophisticated in the car at all. The transmission and the converter is quite nice. It's a Neil Chance bolt together converter. Andy Frost built, you know, 1800 horsepower rated power glide in it.
Brilliant.
The genuine vintage old 70s Craigar Super Tricks. The actual centre caps were harder to find than the wheels. Mint, undamaged, original aluminium Craigar Super Trick centre caps were non-existent. But they needed it to complete the whole look of the car.
It does look perfect. Nothing else in them. Nothing else would have worked.
No. There's certain bits that car needs. And that completes the overall look. It did take me 20 years to decide on paint, wheels and lettering, so I should have got it right after all that time, in fairness.
Yeah, if you had thought, no, that's not what I wanted, you'd have felt it.
I would, yeah. So between sort of Dave McCallan, who painted it, and Darren West, Power Race Graphics, we sort of came together. I had some ideas, a few parts off a few pops that I liked. Darren put it down on the paper and Dave put it in the paint. We added the stripes on the side of the car very, very last minute. Literally, the car was masked up, and I said to Dave, I want some stripes on there. It was Boxing Day as well. Yeah, he was texting me on Boxing Day while he was masking it up, and I said, I want stripes on there. And he did the boot lid first as a bit of a sample, and he went, yeah, that works. And it looks orange on the side of the car, but it's actually the same red, just thinner over a slightly different gold, which makes it look a completely different colour, but keeps the tone the same because it's the same colour.
Brilliant. Right.
So I can talk about the car all day long, so you'll have to tell me to stop eventually.
Well, I was going to say, I've kept you yakking there for over an hour, and you've got a business to run.
Yes.
So I will say thank you ever so much. I'm so glad we came on a sunny day.
Yeah, we've got, and luckily the car at work, and it's just perfect, really. It's all falling into place.
So I'll say thank you ever so much. Ben Rushforth, EDA. That's EDA over there. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you ever so much, Ben.
Thank you, Dave.